Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we're going to be coming at you with a second-round mock draft. But before we jump into that, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new to Utility Sports. We've been posting a lot of NBA content pretty much daily here on the channel, so this is the place you want to be to keep up with all things NBA. Also cover a lot of NCAA basketball, do a lot of different stuff with that. The draft, a very, very big part of the channel here as well. So if you like draft content, this is the place to subscribe. Also, turn on that notification bell. If you've been subscribed for a while, like our videos, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the future videos. And now let's jump in here to the actual NBA mock draft. This is, of course, the second round based off of a first round video we've already recorded. So here is the card for that if you want to check that out before this video. This is obviously based off that first round. And here we got the Milwaukee Bucks on the board. And there's an extremely talented player that's fallen out of the first round in this mock draft, and that is going to be a little bit of the ways down here. Johnny Juzang out of UCLA, a talented three-level scorer, someone who can really put the ball in the hole, put it on the deck, get to his spots, rise up, elevate, finish around the rim. Does a lot of things well. He's going to be able to act as a floor spacer there for Milwaukee. We know how important that is in Coach Bud's offense, and it's also a really good grab for them because outside of Chris Middleton, they don't necessarily have a late game shot creator. I think Johnny Juzang can develop into that, to be honest. He's someone who is very, very skilled. Maybe not the most athletic player in the world, but he uses his body well, gets to his spots, and is very, very talented at putting the ball in the hole. I think Johnny Juzang should be a first-round pick, but I see it possible that he does fall into the top of the second round. Milwaukee here would be ecstatic to grab him at this point. Next, we've got the New York Knicks here on the clock, who have had a very interesting first round, was very guard heavy with how they address things. So now in the second round here, they're going to be looking at trying to find some floor spacing in the front court for Julius Randle, give them some size, and that's going to be Matthew Hurt. Very high release point. He can really shoot the ball, played at Duke for a few years. He's a nice player, was Mr. Basketball in the state of Minnesota in high school. And he's a guy who just is going to come in and be a very solid role player. You know what you're going to get with them. The New York Knicks have a ton of salary cap space. They're going to look to bring in some really top-level players. The draft here is about trying to find guys who are going to fit around those players and also trying to find guys that are going to be solid rotational guys that are going to fit into a certain role. Matthew Hurt does that extremely well at this point. Now at pick 33 of the Orlando Magic, who I love the first round that they had. So if you're a Magic fan, make sure you go check that video out on the channel. But here, now at pick 33, I think that there's a really, really strong option here out for them because I still think that they're in need of some scoring help. And that's going to be Josh Christopher out of Arizona State. This guy can score the basketball. He's very good in transition, and there's never been a shot he hasn't liked to put up. In some of the scrimmage games during the NBA Draft Combine, he was pretty aggressive putting shots up. Now he's a struggling three-point shooter. The Magic do need some spacing, but Josh Christopher has enough potential to put the ball in the hole that we could maybe see him ascend like Kevin Porter Jr. did this past season for the Houston Rockets. I think there's a real chance Christopher becomes a nice lead scoring guard for some team down the road. The Orlando Magic are in bad need of it. They might as well take the shot on Josh Christopher here at pick 33. Moving into pick 34, we have Sam Presti's fourth pick of the draft at this point. I believe he does have 6, so he's got a lot of chances here to take some swing and miss opportunities. But here he's going to go a little bit safer. He's going to go with Terrence Shannon Jr. out of Texas Tech. The left-handed guard, I think, has a pretty nice touch. He's going to be someone who can fit into that Sam Presti offense. He needs to get in more guards, more help into that backcourt for Mark Daigneault, their head coach. He's got to get some more players around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as well. I think Terrence Shannon Jr. is someone who has potential to be a very nice rotational player. Not necessarily a home run pick, but a safe, low-risk pick at this point. Pick 35 here, the New Orleans Pelicans are on the clock here, and they're going to be looking at a player who I also think should be a first-round pick, and he can absolutely shoot the ball. He has a strap for sure. Let me go down here a little bit to go get him, because he's a little slept on in this ranking, in my opinion. That's Nashan Bones Hyland. This kid can shoot the basketball. He was 15 for 18 during the combine on 30-foot three-pointers. That's right, 30-foot three-pointers. He was 15 for 18. This guy's got deep range. He's a shot creator. He can handle the rock. He played lights out for Virginia Commonwealth University, VCU, the entire year. Killed my Dayton Flyers twice. He's a nice player, and I think that A lot of people didn't really know a lot about him. That's why they were looking at him as a first-round player. I think it's very possible that with that combine performance, he could slip back up into the first round. I would take him in the first round, but here I got him mocked at pick 35. Now moving into pick 36 here, we've got the Oklahoma City Thunder here. And again, they're looking for guys who can fill out this roster. They've already looked into the front court a couple times. They've looked into the back court a couple times. Now it's about trying to find a guy who maybe has some upside, especially athletically, and that's JT Thor out of Auburn. I think he's a very intriguing player. I think he's someone who can do a lot of different things off the ball. He's going to bring athleticism, size, length at 6'10", and he can jump the way he can jump. He's going to be an intriguing pick for a lot of different teams. Sam Presti and the Oklahoma City Thunder pulled the trigger on him at pick 36. Now at pick 37, we have the team that is very key to watch this offseason. That's the Detroit Pistons. Of course, they have the first overall pick. They also have a few second-round picks. So we're going to look at a much-improved Pistons roster going into next year. And they're going to take a home run swing here on a guy who really struggled as a freshman in college. Still came out for the NBA draft because he has the dream of making the NBA, and he's going to. That is BJ Boston out of Kentucky. I know he's slim, undersized. I know that he struggled shooting the basketball. His splits were horrendous this past year. I believe he shot about 36% from the field. He struggled in a lot of areas. But watching this guy, it's clear that he does have some offensive upside with the way that he can handle the rock at his size and some of the shots that he's willing to take. He's comfortable taking tough shots. He wasn't making them, but he's going to take them. And at some point, if he develops, the Pistons could be looking really scary, grabbing not only Cade Cunningham, but also BJ Boston if everything pans out for him. Now at pick 38, we have the Chicago Bulls here, and they're going to be looking along the wings. Just look at the roster. I think that they still need a little bit more athleticism and a little bit more help along the wing. And there's a guy that slid a little bit. That's Trey Murphy, the third out of Virginia. I love what this kid brings. The Chicago Bulls really need some help on that perimeter. They've been looking for it for a long time. Picks like Denzel Valentine just haven't really panned out the way that they were probably hoping. Trey Murphy the third is going to be an upgrade there. Patrick Williams was a nice grab last year. You're looking at adding into that bench and finding a wing to help spell Patrick Williams when he's out of the game. At pick 39, we have the Sacramento Kings here, and it's going to be about the center position. Obviously, there's a key need there because Rashawn Holmes is a free agent, and he's probably going to get paid a pretty nice dollar in free agency. I'm not sure if the Kings are going to be able to retain him or not. So at this point, they're going to go with Day'Ron Sharpe, a guy who I thought maybe could have been a first-round pick before the season started and never really got into a rhythm there with the Tar Heels. They had a down year again. Roy Williams, of course, does call it quits and retires. Day'Ron Sharpe just is an interesting player because he offers some athleticism. He can move his feet fairly well out in space. And in transition, he's a beast coming down the lane. I think with a little bit of development, the Kings could have a very quality center, someone who I could see being a long-term starter in the NBA. Now, pick 40 here, we have the New Orleans Pelicans on the clock. And here, again, they've already been guard heavy, but they're going to look for another guard here, someone who actually has talent at being a true ball handler and lead guy in an offense, because last year, running their offense through Zion didn't necessarily lead to a lot of wins. I think that with Lonzo Ball heading to free agency, it's important for them to look for someone who could be a replacement for Lonzo Ball if they feel like they're not going to match that contract. And that's going to be Daisha Nix here, a 6'5" point guard, has a big frame, very big. I believe he's probably around 225, 230 pounds, and he uses that body well. He can get in the pick and roll, very good at crab dribbling guys, holding them on his back hip, and also has a wide range of passing angles to hit a lot of different players in different spots. He can hit both corners, coming down the middle of the lane, very good pocket passer as well, hitting on bounce passes to roll men. I think that he's someone who could be a really nice complement to Zion Williamson in what is becoming a loaded Pelicans roster. Pick 41, now we have the San Antonio Spurs here. They went with a big man in round one, and at this point, they're going to go with someone who I think really fits the culture and fits what they're looking for, and that's a do-it-all type of guy, Herb Jones from Alabama, the 6'8" wing. Played some small ball center for the Alabama Crimson Tide this past year and was extremely impressive when he did so. He's got a phenomenally large wingspan at about 7'2", and he just offers a lot on the basketball floor. You can use him as a roll man in the pick and roll. You can use him as a corner spot up guy. Also defensively, you could probably have him guard 2 through 4, maybe even 2 through 5 in the NBA, even though I think that's going to be a little bit shakier than it was in college. But he's quick, he's got athleticism, and he is very lengthy. And I think the Spurs look to add into their wing grouping. Obviously, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Also, already very nice pieces that they have there, but they're going to look to continue building up and adding some more athleticism and length onto that perimeter. Pick 42, we have the Detroit Pistons here yet again. Of course, they went with BJ Boston in the most recent pick. And at this point, there's going to be a very, very quality guard available, and that's Josh Primo. For the Pistons, you have to be looking at trying to improve your perimeter play this year. They just didn't get enough out of it. I could see Jeremy Grant sliding into the four-man position full-time, still being a key offensive weapon for them. But it's about trying to fit in guys who are going to be nice fits around Cade Cunningham and also Jeremy Grant for the long term. I think that they're doing a very nice job of this. Saddiq Bey played very well in his rookie season, so you're looking at a much improved roster. They've already got some shooting. They need a little bit more shooting for sure, but they need offensive talent. More than anything, they need guys who can put the ball in the deck and put the ball in the hole. That's a key thing there in Detroit, and I hope Troy Weaver figures that out on draft night. Pick 43, we have the Pelicans yet again. This is what I was talking about the second round. There's a lot of teams that have multiple picks. So at the 43rd overall selection here, we've got the Pelicans, and they're going to be looking at a wing here, someone who had a very, very productive season all in all at the University of Pittsburgh, and that's Justin Champagnie, 6'6" wing. He averaged, I believe, 18 points, I believe 10 rebounds a game, and I think 4 assists. It was very, very productive, and it has a very nice shooting stroke, very clean pocket while shooting the ball. Quick release. I think that he played fairly well in the scrimmage games at the Combine as well. He was impressive to me, kind of put me on the radar of, hey, I think this guy should be a second-round pick. Has enough production in college to match what I saw in his pro day, essentially. Now at pick 44 here, we have the Brooklyn Nets, and at this point, they're going to be looking for a point guard because Spencer Dinwiddie's out the door. They need big man. They need point guard off the bench, and that's going to be Miles McBride here out of West Virginia. I think he's the best player available yet at this point, and he's a key need for the Brooklyn Nets here. Very, very solid player, decent upside, but he's going to come in and be a nice rotation guy right away, and that's what Brooklyn needs. Pick 45, we have the Boston Celtics here now on the clock, and this is a very, very underrated player. I think this guy could easily be a first-round pick if a team loves him, because I think he's well deserving of that. And that is actually here at this point going to be a point guard, David Duke out of Providence. This kid is absolutely phenomenal. Good athlete, 6'5" point guard, has real guard skills, can handle the rock. Needs to grow a little bit as a shooter, although I think he's not a bad shooter at this point. I think he could just take his game to the next level, increasing that shot a little bit more, getting a little bit more fluid, shooting off the dribble. But here Boston has a serious need at point guard. David Duke, one of the best players available in the class yet at this point, is on the board. They go ahead and take him there after moving Kemba Walker. Pick 46, we've got back-to-back Toronto Raptors picked here at 46 and 47. The first one here, they're going to go with a power forward who I think is very well-rounded and kind of fits what Toronto's looking for, and that's guys who are going to help them win in the short term. Jeremiah Robinson Earl, a very, very nice player. The thing is, when you think about the Raptors, you think, oh, this team's probably relatively young, right? That's not necessarily the case. Fred VanVleet's 27 years old. You're looking at Chris Boucher already being 27 years old. This team is entering the prime of their careers. This isn't a long-term approach here. Toronto wants to win. They got a really good player in round one. Now they get Robinson Earl here at 46, and 47, they're going to follow it up with another guy who's going to help them win and probably could even compete for the starting center job very quickly into his career. That's Neemias Queta out of Utah State. This guy is big, athletic, and can protect the rim. Everything that Toronto badly needs there. Your front court just got a lot better there in Toronto, even after adding a guard in round one. This is a home run draft for the Toronto Raptors. No question about it. Neemias Queta, I love what he brings. He's going to be a very, very good rim protector. He's got good athleticism. I like what he's going to bring in the pick and roll game offensively. And I think he's a guy who's going to play within his role, know himself. He's going to be like JaVale McGee a little bit, which maybe doesn't sound like the most great or the best comparison, but at the end of the day, that's a guy who's carved out a very long NBA career doing what he does as a role man, someone who's going to be a glue guy, can protect the rim, also works out in space a little bit. Queta, very athletic. I love what he brings to Toronto. Toronto Raptors fans, you guys got to be extremely happy with this selection. Pick 48, the Atlanta Hawks here now on the clock, and they're going to look at the four-man position, try and find a guy who can maybe fit long-term in case they don't want to keep John Collins right now. I'm assuming John Collins is going to get maxed, and they're probably going to match that because they are in the Eastern Conference Finals. They want to see where this team can go as they grow together. Very possible we could see the Atlanta Hawks in the finals. Now, right now, as I'm recording this, they're down 2-1 in the series to Milwaukee, but they are a very good team, and I think that they're going to want to keep their core around. But just in case, they're going to add some depth at that power forward spot. That's Isaiah Todd, the 6'10" forward who played for G League Ignite, has some nice face-up game elements, can cut off the ball as well as a cutter. And I think he's very effective in the mid-range area. Now, he's got a lot to improve. I think he's got to get better around the rim. I think he's got to stretch out his game a little bit more to the three-point line to be a good NBA fit. But the Hawks have such a deep roster already that it's not really a big concern if it takes him a little bit of time to add to those elements and really improve as a basketball player. Pick 49, now we have the Brooklyn Nets yet again here. And they're going to take a guy who I think was one of the biggest risers from the NBA Draft Combine, and that is Quinton Grimes out of Houston. Watching the scrimmage games, it was like, wow, this kid just keeps making play after play. A very impressive performance from him, especially in one of the scrimmage games that I'd seen. Played very, very well. I think that he's a guy who's a late riser here in the process, someone who I could even say maybe going earlier than 49. Probably could see him going in the 30s. Maybe don't even be surprised if he's the last pick of the first round. Quinton Grimes just played very, very well on a very big scene where a lot of people were watching, and I think that was really key for his burst here into the second round. Pick 50, now we have the Philadelphia 76ers here on the clock. And they're going to go with a guy I actually played against in high school, and that is Jericho Sims. I think that there's no question here that the 76ers are going to be making some roster moves. I would be surprised if Ben Simmons is back next season. So instead, they're going to look for some more size to help out in the front court when Joel Embiid's off the floor, and Jericho Sims is going to do that. A very smart player, coached up under Shaka Smart at the University of Texas before Shaka Smart departed, and he's someone who's going to be in the right place at the right time. He's lengthy, 7'3" wingspan, I believe, standing at 6'10", and he also recorded a 44.5-inch max vertical, which is absolutely insane for a guy that big. He's athletic, offers good size, good length, and I think that Daryl Morey and the Philadelphia 76ers could fall in love with Jericho Sims at pick 50. Pick 51, now we have the Memphis Grizzlies here on the clock, and they're going to go following their own draft history, and that's looking at Michigan State players. They like to take Michigan State Spartans. They've done it a few times here. Now they're going to grab a guard here. Aaron Henry, the Spartan, comes in. I think he's the best player, or one of the best players available at this point, and he's a good fit into that roster. They need a little bit more guard play, and I think he's a guy who's NBA ready. He's going to help them come in and win early. The Grizzlies not only want to make the playoffs again, but they want to try and win a series. Aaron Henry is going to be a nice contributing piece off the bench. Pick 52, we have the Pistons yet again here on the clock. Looking at who they've drafted so far already, they're going to be looking again for another contributor, and that's going to be in the front court this time. And they're going to look at a guy who, doesn't have the highest ceiling, but that's Luka Garza. He can space out the floor a little bit, can function as a pick and pop man, also has a little bit of a post arsenal, can catch down low. He's going to be one of the few centers in this class that I'd actually feel comfortable dropping the ball into and letting him go to work one-on-one down off the low block with his back to the basket. Now, I don't think that he's got a very high ceiling. I think he's going to struggle defensively in the pick and roll game. That's why he's not a first-round pick. He goes 52nd overall. This is about the right range for him. He's not going to be a build-around player by any means, but I think he helps round out this roster, function as the third center early behind, of course, Isaiah Stewart and also Mason Plumlee. But then long-term, if Plumlee moves on from Detroit down the road, I could see Garza being a quality rotational center behind Isaiah Stewart, who's probably going to become the starter down the road. Pick 53, we have the New Orleans Pelicans here at this point, and you're looking at a team that, with all these picks already, has looked very heavily into the wing and backcourt position. So now they're going to look at a big man here, and that's Ariel Hukporti out of Germany. I think this kid's got a little bit of potential. They don't necessarily need a big man right now. Steven Adams is there, Jackson Hayes is there, but it's about trying to round out this roster, find guys who can maybe develop into something. And I think Hukporti, with a little bit of time in the G League, could be a guy who could grow quite a bit. Pick 54, now we have the Indiana Pacers, who, of course, hired Rick Carlisle as their head coach during the last mock draft video that I was recording. And at this point now, with 54, they're going to be looking at a guy who's going to offer a little bit more versatility to that roster. Because I think there's some question marks there about who's going to be there long-term, who isn't. So you go with some versatile picks, give you some options when it comes to roster management. That's going to be Joel Ayayi here out of Gonzaga. The junior can really rebound the basketball. Could play a little bit of point guard, but mostly probably will function as a off-ball 2 in the NBA. Also, I could kind of see him functioning like Bruce Brown, what we saw from him with the Brooklyn Nets as a small ball center in some areas, just because of his will to go rebound the basketball. You know, hard oversized is kind of the mantra here for Joel Ayayi. I think he's a very nice player. I think he's someone who's going to bring his effort and energy, something Indiana really cares about. They don't want to bottom out there. They are all about trying to be competitive. They'd rather be in the middle than at the bottom, and I think Joel Ayayi is going to help them stay around that middle area. Pick 55 now, the Oklahoma City Thunder here on the clock. They're going to go with a guy who has very, very good potential. That's Rocco Prkačin, the Croatian MVP of the U18 League. He's someone who I think could step out behind the three-point line, and I could even see him being a late first-round pick. He's one of the harder guys to mock because it kind of depends on which scouts have been overseas to Croatia to really see him at this point. And that's difficult because we're living in a pandemic right now. Not a lot of people have been traveling. Some NBA teams have been limited with who they've been able to see. But Rocco Prkačin, a very nice player. I think he's going to have a good impact. And we have the Oklahoma City Thunder taking him here 55th overall. The 56th pick and the 57th pick both belong to the Charlotte Hornets here. So with the first one, they're going to be looking at finding a guy who offers a little bit of a unique skill set, something you don't really see a lot in the NBA draft anymore, and that is going to be Trendon Watford out of LSU. The sophomore forward was very, very key for the LSU Tigers' success along Cameron Thomas, and he's someone who I really, really like in a lot of different ways. He's going to be a face-up four. Kind of reminds me of Michael Beasley, the similar play style. Of course, Watford's right-handed, not left-handed, but does bring some nice skill set into the four-man position. He's going to have to spend some time in the G League, but I think he could be a nice fit onto that roster. They badly need to look into the front court. Watford, a very good grab here. Then the Hornets also looking at a point guard here at this point, someone who's going to be a very nice option for them behind LaMelo Ball, because I think Terry Rozier moves over to the two pretty much full-time at this point. I think Devontae Graham's probably played his last game with the Charlotte Hornets, so you're looking for a rotational guard, and that's Jason Preston here out of Ohio. Had a very, very good run to end the season. Of course, got all that hype, and I think he's a guy who's an NBA-level player, and I think he's going to function well off of a team's bench. Charlotte is in need for a backup point guard long-term, in my opinion, and I think Jason Preston would be a very good grab for them at this point. Pick 58, we have the New York Knicks here on the clock yet again, and they're going to look for an athletic center, someone who is going to come in and offer some rim protection. That's Moussa Cease out of Memphis. Also tested very well during the combine, recorded a very nice vertical jump. He's someone who has a lot of length as well and can protect the rim. They need to find someone who could be a Nerlens Noel replacement in case he walks in free agency. I'm sure they'd love to have Nerlens Noel back. Mitchell Robinson's also going to be on the last year of his deal after they accept that team option on him. So it's about finding someone who could offer maybe a little bit of stability long-term at the center position with some defensive upside. I think that's Moussa Cease. I think he fits well into Tom Thibodeau's system, and he's a good grab at pick 58. Now at pick 59, we have the Brooklyn Nets here, and they're going to go with someone who can space the floor a little bit and is just going to be a quality player, and that's Sam Hauser out of Virginia, the senior forward, 6'8" standing, and he is someone who I think is going to be a nice off-ball player for them and just a rotation guy, not someone who's going to be a high potential pick, not someone who's going to be like, oh wow, this is going to be a build-around player down the road. But the Brooklyn Nets don't need that. They just need to make some fine-tune adjustments on the end of their roster, and I think Sam Hauser is a phenomenal fit into what they're trying to build. The final pick of the second round, and the final pick of the NBA draft here. Before we jump into it, I want to urge you guys, again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and also turn on the notification bell for more utility sports content. With pick 60 now here, the Indiana Pacers are going to be looking for someone who can function in the pick and roll. Rick Carlisle loves to run pick and roll offense. Pacers fans are going to learn that very, very quickly, how much he loves to run the pick and roll. And I think looking for an athletic forward, someone who can do a few different things without the ball in his hands, is going to be very, very valuable there. And it's going to be a guy who also can function as a rim protector. Despite standing at 6'6", Yves Pons played basically the center man position for Tennessee this past year, the senior forward. I think he's going to transition to the NBA as a power forward, but also could protect the rim a little bit yet. He's got good timing, and he has a lot of heart, and I think that goes a long ways in Indiana. Yves Pons is the final pick of the second round. Here are the selections one last time for you guys to get a overall feel for who went where. Hopefully you guys did enjoy today's mock draft video. If you did, leave a thumbs up button. and also subscribe for more NBA draft content. Thanks again, guys, so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next video.